Hello everybody, this is Parvin and I welcome you to App DNA where we are obsessed about apps. Today I'll be talking to you about one of my favorite apps, the library management app, and that is because I love libraries and books. But what I used to hate about my college library was that every time I would go to borrow a book, my librarian would stamp a seal at the back side which would tell me about the return date, and invariably I would always forget the return date and end up paying fine. Now I wish that my librarian had some way to build a library app that would help him to notify the students about the return date of the book. So today I'd be helping you through a library app with our low-code platform Zoho Creator. Zoho Creator helps you build apps with a drag and drop interface where you drag elements and drop them and build your own app. Even the simplest of library apps will allow you to catalog your books in a database where the students can raise a borrow request and the librarian in turn can approve these requests. Knowing this workflow, our basic library app today will have 5 essential features. The first feature is that we will catalog our books in a book database and also have a student information form where we will know all our members. The second feature is that we will share the app with the students so that they can browse through the catalog of books. The third feature is that the students can raise a borrow request for any book they want. The fourth feature is that the librarian will receive this request and he can either approve or reject the request. The fifth feature is that we will send notifications on the due date to all the members so that they don't miss out on the submission return date. Now that we know all the 5 features, we'll go to creator.zoho.com and start building our app. The first feature is that we have to capture the information about our resources and members. For that, we'll be building 2 forms on Creator through which we will be allowed to enter the book information, and the other form will hold our student information. Welcome to creator.zoho.com. We will be building our library app today. There are 2 buttons here. One is to create a new application, or if you were already using a spreadsheet to manage your books and library, then you can simply import those files with this button and create an app. I'll go for new application, and this takes me to the app gallery where we have more than 40 pre-made applications by our developers. These apps are ready to be installed right away and you can use them. After I'm done with the tutorial, I'll download this app and I will show you how to do it. We have our library management right here, but let's go back to our app. I'm going to create it from scratch and I'll name it as Library App 2018. Now this takes me to the edit mode where I can create a new form by clicking here, and I want to create my form from blank. I want to create a form for my student information and my books information. So let's create the first form and name it as books. Now this is the drag and drop interface that I was talking to you about. We have our data fields here which we will drag and drop here to create our form. The information about books that I want is I want the ISBN number of the books, so I'll drag and drop this number field here and I'll rename it as ISBN. Next I want to know the name of the book, so I'll use the single line field here and name it as book name. Next I want to know the author, so I'll use the single line field again and rename it as author. Now we want to know the available number of resources that we have for this particular title, so I'll use the number field and I will name it as available quantity and hit done. So our first form is ready and we can go to the live mode of this app where we can see the app running through access this application here. The difference between the edit mode and the live mode is that in the edit mode we create the app, and the live mode we use the app. So this is our books form, so let's just enter a book. Let's say the book is Alice in Wonderland. Available quantity is 100 and hit submit. Every time you submit a form in Creator, it gets recorded in the report which gets created automatically. So in the books report, we have our first resource, Alice in Wonderland. Now let's go back to edit this application to create our second form, which was the member information. So we'll create it by adding new form from blank and we'll name it as student member. So for the student member, I want to identify them uniquely with a member ID. So I will use the number field and I'll rename it as member ID. Next, I want to know their name, their email, and then we are done with our member form. Now we go back to access this application and we can access our member form here. So let's just put a new member Let's say the member ID is 1, name is me, Parveen Chaudhary, and my email is parveen.singh, and hit submit. Now you can see that in the student member report, I am a member here. So we are done with the first feature, which was to have student database and the resource database. Now that we have our forms, we are going to share the app with our members, and that is the second feature of the app. To share the app with the student members, we go back to edit this application and we use the green button here that says share, and it says share application with. Since the student is a user of this library app, I'm going to use user, and then I'm going to create a custom permission. Now enter name for this permission. I'll say student member and set permission for. Now I want the students to have access to the books, so I will choose the view books report here because I don't want them to access the books form per se, because I don't want them to create new books or resources. I just want them to browse through the books catalog, so I'm giving them view option of the books report, and then that's it, because I don't want them to access the student member form. Then hit next, and then you can add user. Let's say my friend Akshay is a user of this app and he will get a notification through mail. Hey, you can access the library app now, and hit share. Sharing is done, so we will go to Akshay's mail and see if he got any mail. So here, he got the mail and says, I invited him to access the library app 2018. Hey, you can access the library app now, and he will go to the application. And right here, he can browse the book catalog. Since I have only Alice in Wonderland, he can see that. Now what remains to be done with this app is that he can't borrow this book, and that would be taken care of in the third feature. We have built our forms and we have shared the app with our members. Now the third feature entails that we create a workflow through which our students can click on a borrow button and raise a borrow request. For this, we will create a workflow in Creator. We have to first create a form through which the students can request to borrow a book. I'm going to name that as borrow form. And here I'm going to use a special data field called lookup, which is used to relate to forms. What lookup does is it relates to forms so that we can fetch the records residing in another form for the use in this current form. So I'm going to use student member form to know the member ID so that we know which student wants to request for the form. And then I'm going to choose here what else I want to know about them. I want to know their member ID and their first name. Next, I'm going to use the lookup field again, this time to know which book the student wants to borrow. So here I want to choose the book title, and done. Along with the book title, I want to know the author as well and the available quantity of the book. Next, I want to know the date on which the book is going to be issued. So I use the date field and name it as issued date. I'm going to use the date field again, and this one would be the return date. Next, I want to know the requested quantity for this book, so I'll use the number field and rename it as requested quantity. Next, we want to know the status of the borrow request, so we'll use the radio button and we'll rename it as status. The choices would be approved, rejected, and pending. Now by default, I want the status to be pending, so I click on this and then I hit done. So we are done with our borrow form. If we access this application, it will take us to our borrow book repo form, and now I want to create a new custom action button for the borrow. So I go back to edit this application and I want my button to appear in the books report. So I go to the books report, and in the fields I want to create an action which happens on the click of a record for a single record, and I add a new item. Now the menu display name would be borrow. Run this action for all records. Let the workflow name be borrow as well. And then I want the execution to happen for each record and write the workflow. So I create the new workflow, add a new action, and now I want the action type to be a notification. What I want our borrow button to do is that I want it to redirect it to the borrow form that we have created. So I redirect it to a URL. The type is form, the form is borrow book, and open in the same window. I hit save. Now I want a new action as well, and this one I want is to be a mail that would be triggered to the admin that a student wants to borrow a book. Send email from the login user ID to the admin user ID, and the subject can be borrow book. Now the message can be made with HTML, and I would like to say I want to borrow the book and hit insert, and then we have the insert field option here. So I want to insert the field book title, and then I save. Now we have done two workflows. So on the click of the button, first it will get redirected to the borrow book, and then a mail would be triggered to the admin. So now that we are done with the button, update the menu, and now we want this button to appear in our books report. For that, we go to fields, click on this layout, and hit this add fields. Here I want the borrow button to appear. Now I'll go to the live modes to see how our report looks like now with the fresh button in it. Now that we know how to create workflows for the custom action buttons, the fourth feature is really easy because we are going to build two more custom action buttons, but these are the approve and the reject button for the admin to either reject or approve the borrow request. So here I have the borrow button. So when you're sharing this app with the students, now they can see this borrow button. So they click on this borrow, and it would take them to this borrow book form. So you see now how things have been connecting. First I make the borrow book form, and then I made the borrow button. And now for demo, I can choose to borrow this book, Alice in Wonderland. I put my dates. I request a quantity 1, and I hit submit. Submitted the form. Let me go to my mail and check whether I got the mail, since I'm the admin. And yes, I got the mail, borrow book request, and it says Alice in Wonderland. I want to borrow the book. Now I made some mistake in the HTML, the alignment, so you can always customize the mail as per your need. And so we are done with the third feature that said create a custom action for borrow a book so that the students can easily raise a borrow request for the books they want. To create the approve and reject custom actions, we do it the same way we did it for the borrow request, only this time we are going to build it in the borrow book report instead of the books report. So we go and create it the same way we created the previous ones, add new item, and this one would be called as approve. I want to run this action for selected records, and this is because as soon as a request has been approved or rejected, it should not be active again. So I want to select the field status. So as long as the status field equals pending, this approve button would be open. As soon as the status equals approved or rejected, this button would not be active anymore. Now the workflow name would be approval. We create our workflow. We add a new action, and this time we are going to create a custom action and create our own script. So this brings us to the Deluge workspace where we will be coding with these Deluge tasks. These are pre-built blocks of code which we can drag and drop the same way we built our form. So it's going to be very interesting, and let's see what we want to code for our approval button. First, I want the status of my borrow request to turn to approved. For that, I simply type input.status equals approved. And next, I want to change the available quantity of our books. So I want to minus the available quantity by the requested quantity, because once the request is approved, I will have to dole out the books to the students, so my inventory will come down. How do I get to know what is the available quantity? To know the available quantity, I'll use the Deluge task fetch records, which will fetch the records from another form. For this purpose, I can use a variable and let the variable be book quantity. The form would be books because that is where we know the available quantity of particular books, and the field would be ID. ID is a unique identifier by Creator through which it differentiates between the records. The operand is equals, and the expression is input.books. What this line does is, this input.books captures what the member has selected as the resource, and then it goes to the form and it looks through all the records, and the moment the ID of one record matches the ID of the book that he has inputted, it gets stored in the book quantity variable. Now, once that we know the variable which holds our particular record, we would like to manipulate it. How would we do that? We would take the variable book quantity dot available quantity equals available quantity minus the requested quantity. Input dot requested quantity. What this code does is, since we know the record which holds the available quantity, now we want to subtract that quantity by the requested quantity so that it reflects the current available quantity. Now that we know the available quantity, we would like to know the member email so that we can send the mail to him about his request. So we will use the fetch records again to fetch the member emails, and let this variable be member email. The form where it resides is the student member form. The field is ID equals input.member dot email. What this line does is it goes to the student member form, it finds out those IDs which match our student member in the current form, and then it fetches their email. Once we know their email, now we can simply use the send mail task here to send the email to them. So from Zoho admin.userid to our member email, and the subject can be your request for the current book has been approved. If you want the book name, then just put input.books. Now the message can also be customized. Let's say I want to inform the return date in the message. So let's say your return book date is input dot, we have the return date here as return date. And now we save this workflow. So you understand what we did in this workflow was we changed the status to approved, we changed the book quantity to the current available quantity, and then we sent a mail to the student member about the return date. Now we save this workflow and hit done. Now we add this button in the layout just like we did for the borrow request. So we go to the fields, choose this layout, and here we add the field. So we add our recently created approve button here and we save it. Now let's create the reject button the same way. So we'll go to actions, we'll create a single record. This one we'll name as reject. Selected records status should equal pending. And then we name our workflow as reject. Create the workflow, add new action. The custom action, we create our own custom script. And this one would be very similar to the approval one, only that here we do not need to reduce the quantity of our resources in the inventory. We just need to reject the status. So I'll type input.status equal to rejected. Next, I want to send a mail to the members that their request has been rejected. So to get the emails, we will use the fetch record once again. Let's name it as member email. From the form student member, field equals ID, input.member.email. And then we use the send mail task. From admin user ID to member email. Subject should be the book you requested is unavailable. The message can be, please select the resource after a few days. So maybe we want to know the name of the book, so input.books. So what we have done here is we have changed the status and then we have sent out a mail to the members that their book is currently unavailable. So we hit save now and then we hit done. Let's add this button the same we added for the reports. We go to the report, we go to the layout, and here we add the field newly created reject button and hit save. Now we will go to access our application to see the buttons working in live. So here is our app running, and as you can see, our approve button and our reject button are live. So let's just see what happens when we hit approve. The requested quantity is 6 and these both have been frozen because they are no longer in pending, so the buttons are disabled. It's approved. The quantity is 6, and we remember that in the books report we have the available quantity now as 91, which was 100. So the students can still borrow them. And in the borrow book report, it's showing 91 as well. So now we will go to my mail and see whether I got any mails as well. And yes, I got a mail that my request for the book has been approved and my return book date is 9th February. Now my request for this book has been approved has come in so many numbers because I have not put the input.books properly, I guess. So we can quickly edit the application and see what's wrong. We go to our workflow. So you see, making corrections in Creator is really easy. We go to macros where my approval is here. And I think I made the mistake here where I should have put, instead of books, input.books.book title. So that instead of integer, it also takes my title because books is a collection here. And in reject, did I make the same mistake? No, reject was fine. So now that we got the mail, the last fifth feature is that we are going to have a schedule for notifying our members about the return date of the book that they have borrowed. Let's go to our fifth feature. To create the schedule, I go to add new and I want to create a new workflow on a schedule date. Now I can choose a date field from this option, and the start date field resides in the borrow book where the student member has asked for the return date. Now execute the workflow on the above date. At time, let's say the time is fine, and repeat the interval once. Now name my workflow as reminder and create workflow. Now it asks me to add a new action. The action is a custom action, and this reminder workflow is gonna be very similar to the previous one. So I'll be using the fetch record quickly to get the emails. Let's name it as fetch email. Form is the student member form. ID equals input student member. And now that we know the mails, I'll just use the send mail task from admin user ID to fetch email. Subject is return date, reminder. You have to return the book today, and maybe I want to add the name of the book as well. Input.books. Book title, and then we hit save. Now our schedule is saved. We hit done, and every time that we access our application and create a borrow request by the student, we will get a notification for the reminder. So we are done with the fifth feature. Now that we are done with all the features and our app is ready, I would like to take you through the entire workflow once more. So this is the form where we create our resources. We check them in this report. We add our student members here. We check our member report here. And then when they try to request for a borrow from here, it takes them to the borrow request, and then the admin can either accept, approve, or reject the form. Now I want to tell you that Creator 5 allows your app to be available on mobile and tab as well. So you can quickly see the mobile version of your app that you can download from the App Store or get it from Play Store. So this is how your app will look like. Your library app 2018 is here. You can see the forms. You can see this is the report, how the report will look like. And this is the entire interface of it. You can also check out the tab, how the tab version will look like. And we have all the other features there. Now I will take you to creator.zoho.com, where I will quickly take you through the library app that was there in the app gallery and that I promised to show you. So we'll go to new application and we will quickly install the library app. Let's find it out in the sea of the apps. Here, I'll install it. And here, I had added Eat, Pray, Love. And here you see that the interface is much more sophisticated because they put a lot of effort into it. They did a lot of coding and customizing, which is very easy once you get a hang of Creator. Here's the resource tab where you can add the resources. So we have other categories, publishers, authors. There are hire requests. There's members. There's even the sophistication of having checked-in users. So if you have a physical library where the members come and read your books, you can have in time and then you can check out your checked-in readers, the readers history, the admin panel where you have hired resources, renewal requests, users. Like there's so much in here. You have publishers, languages. I can go on and on about it, but I want to you to install this app and check it out for yourself. And even here you can see how the mobile app looks like. It looks very, very sophisticated. So this is how it looks like in the mobile app. So you can download the mobile app and use it on the go. I'm sure you'll be feeling really accomplished if you have been through this video with me and you could build your own library app as well. If you like this video, you could check out the other videos that I have made on other custom business problems, and also remember to like and subscribe our channel. If you have any comments or doubts regarding this app, then just comment below and I would reply to you right away. Until then, keep making apps and be happy. Thanks.